The job security lie. Most professionals believe their salary is stable, but depending on one employer creates a hidden financial risk, and almost nobody talks about it. What if the most stable thing in your life is actually your biggest financial risk? Most professionals believe they're building security, one company, one salary, one career path. But there's a flaw in that model, and almost nobody talks about it. In this video, I'm going to show you why your career isn't a job, why it's not a side hustle, and why the highest level professionals quietly structure it like a portfolio. And once you see it, you won't unsee it. Let me ask you something. If someone put 100% of their money into one single stock, would you call that safe? Of course not. You'd call it reckless. But that's exactly how most professionals structure their income. One employer, one paycheck, one decision maker above you. If that organization removes you, your income drops to zero. Not 20%, not 50%, zero. That's not stability. That's concentration risk. And here's the part most people miss. The single employer model wasn't built for today's economy. It was built for a different era. After World War II, corporations expanded fast. In exchange for loyalty, companies offered pensions, long-term job security, and predictable career ladders. The deal made sense. But that deal changed. Pensions disappeared, job tenure shrank, layoffs became strategic realignments. The protection faded, but the psychological contract stayed. And that's where the imbalance started. You absorbed the risk, but kept the dependency. Let's make this real. Imagine a 32-year-old earning $78,000 a year. Solid career, respectable income, not struggling. After taxes, roughly $4,700 a month. Now subtract housing, car, insurance, utilities, student loans, groceries. What's left? A thin margin. Enough to survive, not enough to breathe. Now here's the real problem. His entire life depends on one variable, one organization deciding to keep him. That's not security. That's a single point of failure, and it compounds quietly for years. But here's where it gets interesting. The people you'd expect to rely most on single employers, they don't. Senior executives, finance chiefs, board members, they don't side hustle, they allocate. Instead of one income stream, they build two, then three. Not gig work, structured mandates, advisory retainers, board seats, fractional executive roles, teaching engagements. And here's the key, they're recurring, contractual, ongoing. If one ends, their income doesn't collapse, it adjusts. That's the difference. Let's simplify the math. One income source lost, 100% income event. Two equal income sources, 50% income event. Still painful, but survivable. You get time. Time changes everything. And here's what most people don't realize. The income isn't the most valuable part. The relationships are. When you build external mandates, you're building portable reputation, independent validation, and institutional trust that travels with you. So when layoffs happen, and statistically they will, you're not starting over, you're stepping sideways. That asymmetry compounds for a decade before it becomes visible. So why doesn't everyone do this? Because it's not a time problem, it's an identity problem. When someone asks what you do, you say your employer's name. That company becomes your professional identity. But what happens when that company disappears? If your legitimacy comes from one institution, you are renting your identity. Portfolio thinking changes that. You stop being director at company X and start being a finance strategist currently advising 3 organizations. See the difference? One is dependent, the other is allocated. This doesn't mean quitting your job. It doesn't mean working 80 hours. It doesn't mean launching a startup. It means asking one question. What expertise do I have that travels? Not your job title, your transferable authority. Then finding the smallest legitimate external expression of it. One advisory role, one retainer, one structured engagement. Not a hustle, a mandate. Small, recurring, expandable. That's how it begins.
In over 10 years, that difference quietly becomes 6 figures, but more importantly, it becomes resilience. Now let's be real, the system wasn't designed for this. Banks prefer W-2 simplicity. Health insurance favors employees. Underwriters like clean salary history. There's friction, but friction isn't the same as impossibility. In the professionals building portfolio careers, they've decided the long-term leverage is worth the short-term complexity. We started with this. When did you decide your career should come from one place? Most people never decided. They inherited it. But inheritance isn't obligation. You can go deep in your craft and still diversify its deployment. Depth and diversification are not opposites. They're stages. And the professionals building the most resilient futures right now, they're not working more, they're structuring differently. So here's the real question. You just learned how a conflict thousands of miles away is quietly eroding your paycheck, driving up the cost of gas, groceries, and everyday essentials, and forcing central banks into impossible choices. But that raises the next urgent question most analysts don't want to talk about. What happens if this energy shock becomes permanent? If oil prices stay high, if inflation keeps eating your income, and global supply chains never fully recover? Not tomorrow, not next year, but in the next 12 to 18 months. In the next video, we're going to break down 3 specific economic tipping points that could wipe out your real wages and the exact financial moves people are making right now to protect themselves from them. Because once you understand these forces and how they intersect with your paycheck, your job security, and your cost of living, everything changes. Click here to watch it next. Subscribe.